Welcome to IT Mastermind Talks, your access to insights and experiences from thought leaders in the IT services industry and those that support the industry. Our podcast features not only the seasoned professionals charting their start to exit journey, but also the key contributors who help ensure their success. We delve into the diverse challenges encountered within the IT services realm, encompassing both professional hurdles and personal obstacles. Join us, be part of our growing community and engage in the conversation. Hosted by Ian Markram of LoadingGrowth.
Hi, it's Ian Markram from IT Mastermind Talks. And today on our show, we've got Rami and Victor, the founders of TechRAM. Welcome to the show, gents.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, good. It's been a couple of months since we've been talking, and I think you just guys started last month. I'm not exactly sure, working with me in LoadingGrowth. Can you guys just confirm when it was? It's been a bit of a blur.
Yeah, I think it's been probably 2 months now.
2 months. Okay, brilliant.
Yeah, it does feel like a
It goes quickly. There's so much happening, so much change. Yeah, that's good. All right, on our show, what we try and do is we take people through a journey, and your journey, even though that you're starting out with this organization, you're going to go through a bit on that. I don't want to lead into that, but you know, you had a journey before you even got there, and we want to hear about how you got there to get onto this new organization, new company that you got going. And we want to know a bit about your experience and your backgrounds. And everyone comes into tech or into IT in a different way. And it's quite amazing the journey that people go on to get there. So that is really one of the first things you want to talk about. So I'm going to start off with you, Rami. You know, how did you start? Let's talk about school. You know, right back at the beginning. Were you into IT back in the day at school or not?
Yeah, like ever since I was young, I loved breaking, fixing, building computers. It was a hobby. Just being able to build my first gaming PC was one of the greatest achievements, and
Nice.
being able to use that and play with that. And then, going into high school was always top of my class for IT course or IT subjects. Did the IT TAFE course, which was really fun while at school, and just getting into uni for IT at the uni I wanted to, which was at UTS at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Everything kind of just felt like it fell into place, and the journey and the career with technology was something that, I was so passionate about even from an early age.
Brilliant. So that TAFE course, what was it like? Because I see it all the time advertised. I've never really asked anyone. Was it worth it?
Yeah, it was so much fun. I loved it. It was IT vet.
Yeah.
What was cool about it is you got a whole day out of school. So we got to school and we would leave probably about 10:30, 11, catch a bus to go to Petersham TAFE. I was at school in Dulwich Hill.
Yeah.
And then spend the rest of the afternoon at TAFE. And to be honest with you, the reason why I fell in love with IT was actually because of my teacher at the time there. He was, I get a bit caught up trying to say this, but he was a real inspiration. He used to share stories. He worked in the US, worked for some of the big corporations. He used to tell us about how he got first exclusive access to the iPhone before it came out. And I used to share all these amazing stories with these massive corporations. And his passion was really to give back and to support students. And he thought the best place to do it, he did university, but he just found the passion and it's TAFE because he just felt like there were people there who really wanted to learn, but just never had the opportunity. And it was really intelligent, and it was a shame he passed away actually during my our studies towards the last of the uni, the TAFE experience there. So he had a really big impact on us. Unfortunately, he's not with us today, but his impact, still made a mark. And
brilliant.
Really kickstarted.
Yeah, education is such an important thing, and my daughter's doing HSC this year, and it's amazing. The teachers that, are the most engaging and interesting are the ones that she's doing automatically better at subjects. It just shows you that, if you have someone there who's, really keen to educate someone, then you're going to get a great result out of it. So awesome to hear that was a success story, got you on the path of learning and being involved in IT and everything else. And then you went to UTS, which is quite a famous university here in Sydney, Australia. Can you just talk a bit about that?
Yeah, well, started UTS. Well, yeah, to be honest, so my experience was very interesting, which is actually where I met Victor. But my experience was I was really, as much as I was enjoying uni, I knew I needed to get some work experience.
Yeah.
So I really was trying hard to find a part-time IT job.
Mm-hmm.
I spent about 12 months of my uni degree to really those first 2 semesters really trying to find a part-time IT job.
Yeah.
But I really struggled. And so I flipped it and I said, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find a full-time IT job and I'm going to switch to part-time uni, which was much easier. It did still take me a couple months. And I actually found the job through my dad, who had a takeaway shop in North Sydney. And it was actually one of his customers who my dad was very friendly, always talking to people. One of his customers says, yeah, I work in tech. My dad was always like, encouraging, trying to help me find a job, which was awesome. And yeah, he mentioned it to one of his customers. And at the time they didn't have someone, but then his customer came back and said 6 months later saying, actually, we had someone who just left and we're looking to hire. And so I went in for the interview and they hired me straight away. And I was able to switch my degree from full-time to part-time and start my career in full-time, IT.
Great. So did you get onto help desk straight away, or what did you end up doing in your first day when you arrived?
Honestly, I was so keen to do help desk. Yeah, I have no idea. I really wanted to get into the tech. I love the tech so much, but I actually got into the job, and when I got there, the title of the job was sales and technical assistant. And I didn't really care about the sales side. I was like, I don't care about the sales. Like, I want to get into the tech. So the company I first started with was ACA Pacific. They're a boutique IT distributor, and I was working in the document management, document scanning business. So I was building document management solutions. I was doing all these cool things. I still remember when I first started, they said to me, I was totally not ready. They said, from now on, every time the phone rings, you're the only one who's answering it. And I remembered how much I had so much fear.
Pressure.
There's just so much pressure. Yeah. And it took probably about 3 or 5 probably first phone calls before I started to slowly get more and more comfortable. So it took about a week before I was looking forward to picking up the phone. But yeah, I was, that job was very an eye opener because of how much I wanted to do the tech. Really, I really tried hard to kind of push the manager to kind of keep me more tech than sales. But then when I actually had a bit of taste of sales, because I had no idea what it meant by sales, my first thought was just someone who's just trying to push something onto someone. When I actually learned the sales side, I actually enjoyed it a lot more. And, honestly, I did really well in the sales side. I was very relatable, very personable with a lot of people. And I was, within the first 2 months, this was actually something that I'm quite proud of that my manager at the time had mentioned was within the first 2 months, I went to Shell Harbour City Council on my own, which is about an hour and a bit drive from Sydney, and did a full deployment and full delivery for a customer. And my manager at the time said I'd never been able to trust someone, even after 12 months of being with us, to be able to go out and do that. So I was quite happy. It made me feel really good and really kickstarted the sales side of my career, where I started less interested in the technical, but more driven to sell more. And that really started my IT sales career from there.
Brilliant. It's amazing. I talk to people, that are just outside of uni or going into uni as well recently, and they basically think, IT is, they have a vision of IT of all people there are nerds, and they're coding away in the corner like, chimpanzees with some peanuts or something. I don't know what they really think. But they don't realize it's actually a big machine, and you need different people in that team to actually go from, dev right through to sales, and there's a lot of different roles to play in. And then you could be marketing, you could be HR, you could be leadership, you could be, spec people, coders, whole lot of things, testers, change management. There's so much to be involved in the IT services business. So very, very interesting. All right, let's move on to, Rami, before we leave, how did you, from there, where did you go? Was that it? And then you moved into something else, or?
Yeah. So then from Asia Pacific, I started working at Oracle. Oracle was a big eye opener
Oracle's a
for
huge
me.
company. How did you get from there to there? That's a big tick in the box.
It was how? Well, I remember the manager at the time who was hiring was just like, the one thing, this was his comment, and I've actually gotten this a lot, where he was like, I knew you would be good at sales because every time I spoke to you, I just felt like I wanted to share everything with you. And he goes,
Right.
that just made me feel like that you could speak to customers and you could just get them to open up and share about their business, which is something that, we do a lot and we get a lot at the moment as feedback. But yeah, so I got into Oracle, I got into the interview, and it was a great opportunity, really opened the doors for so many other opportunities. I learned a lot at Oracle. It was a tough gig. Oracle, for those who may or may not know, can be quite tough. So we joined a really big, brand new business unit. And then, within the first 6 months, they realized how they've gone big, but they wanted to go small. So they got rid of half of the team. And then it kind of, it kind of gave me a very interesting perspective on how big a company, because I was working at a smaller company, right?
Mm-hmm.
A small boutique, Sydney-based company. And then I joined this massive behemoth, Oracle, out of the US. And it gave me really deep insight into the IT world, culture as well, how different type of companies and how their cultures are. So it really gave me a perspective on what kind of organization I wanted to join next, and which led me to join Red Hat, which still by far is probably one of my favorite companies to ever work at. The people there were amazing. The culture was incredible. It definitely did change a little bit, I will say, after it went blue with the IBM acquisition. So I was at Red Hat during that time. But for me, I still was looking for extreme growth, was looking for my next phase and where I wanted to take my career. And so then I joined HCL Software, which was a new business unit, which funny enough, I was HCL Services, big Indian system integrator that acquired a whole bunch of IBM products. And then so I joined the DevOps solution. It was a much bigger role, joining the DevOps team there, looking after all of Australia and New Zealand, actually. Which opened up my eyes to working with sort of a big company as well, but also sort of taking more of a national lead role. And then from there, I joined PagerDuty, which was an amazing company as an automation specialist. But my role grew much bigger, where I was looking after Asia Pacific and Japan. And so I got to travel a lot, did, a few trips to India and Singapore and Korea. Got to speak on stage while I was there.
Fantastic.
And then that's when it led to, that was my last job before we started TechRAM.
Great. So you had some amazing experience there, from a local, a decent sized organization locally to the red team, back to Oracle. You learned about the American aggressive style of play, because, they are successful for a reason, and they are very aggressive, and their cultures matches that, obviously. And then you've moved into Red Hat, which is also another different type of culture. And then you move from Red Hat to IBM, difference once again. And and then HCL Axon, or HCL, who actually bought one of the companies I worked in many years ago in the UK. So I went through an acquisition there. It was called HCL Axon. So that's Indian outsourcer. So very different, all those cultures. What you really were talking a bit about Red Hat and their culture. What was so good at that time? Because obviously things have changed because they've been bought by the blue team. Yeah. What stands out there to be the amazing, feedback that you gave us there around the culture? What was the things there that they did, Rami?
It was definitely, the thing that stood out was how much they invested back into their people was really what drove such a positive culture, in my opinion. They really looked after their staff. They really, there was a lot of training opportunities. I flew to Brisbane a few times and just did random training programs. One of them was the Aspiring Managers program there. And it was just really, it was a really cool experience, to actually feel like the company was so deeply invested and actually wanted to see you successful. That was probably the one thing, reminded me of a quote from Richard Branson, which was, You look after your team, you look after your employees, and they'll look after your customers.
Yeah.
And that was what I really felt. I really felt at Red Hat.
Yeah.
Sure. Everyone had, what I will say is everyone had a vote on something as well.
Great.
You could really feel like you were contributing to the organization. Even the way they redesigned their logo, for example, so they opened it up and everyone contributed on the new logo from Shadow Man to the Red Hat. So there was a really inclusive. That it had not only being an open source company, building open source solutions, they in an open organization. That was something that they really tried to push. That was their principles.
Great. Look, I remember when I was under the pump myself in my IT services business. My son must have been about 3 or 4, whatever. And we were walking one day and his shoelaces were undone. And I said to my wife, why can't he tie his shoelaces? And she said, well, because you haven't taught him yet. And I went, oh yeah, we've got to teach the kid how to tie his shoelaces. I'm being so busy at work. But the thing is, people learn from people. And you've actually learned a lot through those organizations. You would have learned what's good and what's not good. And I'm going to love this as we go through our journeys together. You're going to incorporate, hopefully, the good things into TechRAM and leave those things that you don't want, that you've seen that haven't worked behind. Because I think that's the advantage of having such a good exposure to those massive organizations to see what works and what doesn't work. So, yeah, I think it's the best way to learn, by watching other people.
Definitely.
All right. So we've ticked you off, Rami. Now we're on to Victor. Victor, can we go right to the back to where you started? Let's go back to school if you can.
So probably very similar journey to Rami.
Yeah.
I always loved tearing computers apart, modding computers, water cooling systems, just trying to take this, the CPU or the graphics card to the absolute maximum before it overheated and shut everything down. Because then it was all about frame rates, right? And getting the most of your gaming. And but then that kind of led me to really loving hardware and sort of going down this rabbit hole of understanding how to actually get into the core part of hardware itself, which is, this kind of assembly level of programming, if you would. And, that really opened up my eyes to not really IT. I didn't really understand what IT was, but more so technology in and of itself, and absolutely loving every bit of it. And, spending nights and weekends going through forums and watching videos and trying to enrich myself in that. And, through school, I was always excelling in the ICT subjects and always really had a love for tech. So finishing high school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So fell into an electrical engineering advanced diploma at TAFE.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really enjoyed it and really loved everything about it, from the mathematics to, the physics and compute, the programming. But coming up from quite a strict Lebanese family, I was never really had the opportunity to think about what did work overseas look like, which is where a lot of the electrical engineering work is, of what I wanted to do, kind of working out one of the bigger sort of players, if you would. And so I kind of finished the course and was working in the family business. And then at the time I was like, I'd like to go back and actually do something at uni, and found the Bachelor of Science in IT at UTS. And I was like, I'll give this a go, and kind of came in a few years later after I finished TAFE. And then, started my university degree. And that's where I met Rami, web development course. Sort of throughout uni, I was studying part-time and working with my family, and then realized, I should probably get some work experience in IT. And again, wasn't really sure where I wanted to go with it, and still didn't really kind of understand what IT was, because I feel like a lot of universities understand a bit more about critical thinking around technology systems and people, but less so about IT in and of itself, around the sort of technologies or the systems that you can build for organizations and that sort of thing. So I was looking through the job board at uni, and then I found a job opening for eFlow Computers, who I think are still around. They had contracts with New South Wales schools at the time. I don't know if you remember I believe it was the DET program, where it was pretty much like a ICT manager for every school. And so this company I interviewed for sort of did placements around different schools. And, I went into the interview. It's like, cool, have you ever worked with Active Directory? I'm like, yep, all done. Fluff your way through after the meeting. We're like, what the hell is Active Directory kind of thing? And started doing some contracts at New South Wales schools and learned what it was to become a sysadmin, working with AD, working with virtual machines and understanding how to actually administer a whole bunch of computers and issues and service desks. From there, I realized there was a bit of a ceiling with what I was doing. And a friend of mine at the time was the head of IT at a childcare organization called Only About Children. And they had a rapid expansion and growth going from, 10 to 40 centers around Sydney, New South Wales and Melbourne. And they needed a sysadmin to come on board because they were expanding the systems and scaling and bringing in some really impressive technology around, MPLS networks at the time and link phone systems, which is, a really difficult and complex system to work with at the time. And the goal of Only About Children at the time was to really build a sophisticated IT system around security and scalability. And so we were a lean team and we helped grow the organization from 15 to, I believe, almost 70 sites at the time before they got acquired by Bain Capital for $400 million at the time, which was one of the biggest acquisitions in childcare, back in the mid-teens. And sort of during that transition, at the time, Only About Children onboarded a new MSP to take care of a lot of the support and the infrastructure, Genesis Australia. And I started working really closely with the guys there for about a year. And sort of towards the end of that year, I remember speaking to one of the directors and, we had a really great relationship at the time. And he's like, took me out for lunch. He's like, so what's your next move? I said, oh, what do you mean? He's like, I can see you getting a bit bored. And he's like, you're very good at what you do and all this stuff. And he's like, we're looking for a strong technical systems delivery manager. And he's like, if you're keen, we're happy to have you on board. So I started the new gig in the MSP land and really realized what anxiety feels like. Coming from, working in an internal IT team, managing 70 sites to actually working in an MSP, managing, 100 odd clients with about 70 sites and realizing, what it really meant to work hard and fast and troubleshoot quick and build really good, strong, sophisticated systems. So I worked at Genesis for about 6 years, six and a half years, I think, and learned, so much. I do sometimes have a chat to some guys coming up in the sort of IT space and like, oh, what should I do and where should I go? I said, look, if you really want to learn, work at an MSP because you learn a breadth of everything.
For sure.
Everything from telephony all the way down to, hypervisor systems and cloud and everything in between. And that was really my exposure to really what IT is and how it all actually connects together. And, when you're working with an organization, it's never just one solution. It's a multitude of solutions that somehow have to integrate with each other and strike a balance between security and operations and infrastructure and speed and quality and control. And that's really kind of where I learned how to build solutions and become a little bit more of an architect.
Great.
Yeah, which was good. And so it gave me a real sort of exposure to a lot of different industries and government and private and
good.
So my story.
So you get to meet at UTS. That's how you guys really formally met. And then how did you actually really connect? Did you go to the pub one day and just hey, we just have a laugh and we should do stuff, or did you keep in contact after UTS and then it just further relationship carried on? The romance?
We partied a bit through uni and
we got together. We first got paired up on a uni assignment.
Yeah.
I remember walking in fashionably late to my class, and there's only one seat right at the front, and it was like right next to I think it was one other person, and then Victor was sort of on the left, and there was this free seat on the right. And so I sat there, and then they said, all right, put yourself in groups of threes. It was a first class. Put yourself in groups of three. There's an assignment that you're all going to do together. And then so I was just like sitting right next to two other people. I was like, cool, you guys have a group? No, all right, let's jump in. And Victor was in there. And then, yeah, we really connected as well because, as well, culturally, we're both Lebanese.
Yeah.
So kind of like we kind of understood our parents and where they both came from. But then we were also, I think we were probably some of the only Lebanese people there. We kind of grew closer and we were able to, we're very similar in a lot of ways. We like to do a lot of things together. We like to go out together. And we did have a lot of fun together as well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. It's good that, one of the challenges when you run a firm, a tech firm, is the partnerships. And I often get called in as a coach, to larger organizations, which, it's quite difficult because there's a lot of history there between the partners, maybe 5, 6, 10 years long. And then there's, they started off well and then halfway through they sort of diverge. And that's because the journey of life changes. People have kids, get divorced. There's a ton of stuff happening. So all I want to say to you two gents is keep that bromance happening as much as possible because you need it. You need to keep yourselves sane and help each other because you're going to go through challenges with the journey of life and you can support each other. And if you do that, you'll be a better organization to your customers and to yourselves and your own teams. Yeah, I think it's a lot of things people do not actually work on is the relationship with the founders or the leadership team as much in a small organization. The bigger organizations, they have offsites, they do a whole lot of these team building events, but the small businesses, they don't tend to value that because they're always under the pump. All I'm going to say is keep that romance as long as possible.
Yeah.
So Victor, just a couple of quick questions there. Did you ever get into Bitcoin? Because
how did you know?
You had the skills. You had the skills there. You talk about GCP hardware. This is like you would have been the perfect guy to get into Bitcoin at that stage.
Yeah, opening up a can of worms.
We did some dodgy things back then. I think quick story. This was I think 2012.
Yeah.
2013 maybe.
It would have been 2013 because I think that's when I'll tell you my story on top of that. But that would have been early 2013 potentially. I think started it up.
And I built a rig at home. I had 4 graphics cards running, and I was mining, and I was doing all these bits and pieces. And a friend of mine at the time, friend of ours actually at the time, also through uni, was like, "Hey, I know there's this building this building being demolished in Rosebery, and they've got this office space for like $200 a month." And he's like, "We could probably store our systems in there and just like let them run, and then." And then just don't worry about the electricity because they're not billing anyone for any sort of services
for sure
or anything. And so we had this bright idea and we set up these like 8 graphic cards rigs and we're mining all these different altcoins and bitcoins. And at the time I was young, silly, and didn't really realize what the future of Bitcoin really was. I think I was probably playing it a bit safe and. I think in total I would have mined about 35 odd Bitcoins. And I was like, I'll just sell them because I'll never know when this drops.
For sure.
And then I sold a bunch of them and then I had 5 sitting on an exchange. And then that exchange went, so the Mt. Gox kind of thing. And it's still a bit raw. So now I'm just a passive player in the game and just keep my eye on the markets and
yes, that's
play when I need to.
That's brilliant. So I sold my business in December 2012, and one of the other co-founders phoned me up at the beginning of January. I remember 2013. He said to me, "Look, there's this first event in Vegas for Bitcoin," and he said we should go. I said, "Like, what the hell's Bitcoin?" He goes, "Like, what have you been doing for like the last 4 months?" I said, "I'm just been recovering from 7-8 years of hard work to get to where we were to sell this business." So he said, no, we've got to get on this flight. We've got to get to Vegas. Anyway, I said, yeah, we'll do it. And then I got caught up with something else. He phoned me like 2 weeks later. "Hey, I booked my flights, booked that stuff." And I said, got something else on. I can't make it. Anyway, he's gone on to carry on and he's done really well out of Bitcoin. So he's now financially removed from Australia, and he's now got a tax reasons in another country overseas. So I've seen him a few times since we've caught up with him, but he's done really, really well, and he does a bit of day trading, and he knows a bit about Bitcoin. And I still haven't got into Bitcoin after all these things.
Yeah, look, I think it's fascinating, and I think there's definitely a future with crypto or the blockchain technology itself.
Definitely.
Especially as the internet continues to grow, and we're thinking about cross borders of currency, and people realizing that it's easier to send an altcoin or a different crypto coin as opposed to trying to transfer.
For sure.
Currency.
So with those GPUs, they were used initially for Bitcoin, then gaming first, then Bitcoin, and now it's AI. Is that what sort of the progression happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Not so much with the same cards from back then, but definitely
the
progression into it. Yeah.
It's quite amazing how something starts off with a focus on something, and then it's just sort of moved along a journey, and it's picked up by other sort of not even industries, but other areas within an industry. It's quite interesting. Yeah. I suppose. Anyway, that's pretty good. All right, the last question before we move on to next section. You guys are both Bulldog fans, is that correct?
Or that's actually, like, I grew up in Belmore.
Yeah, right.
Would you say you're a Bulldogs fan?
I feel like by association at the time.
Yeah.
Well, they're going quite well. I'm a Sea Eagles fan. So if you ever come down to Brookvale and you want to have a beer, you're welcome to go out for a burger, a beer, and come watch a game with me at Brookvale Park.
Might take you up on that offer, for sure.
Especially on a Friday afternoon.
Hopefully it's with the Bulldogs.
Get the Bulldogs Seagulls game. It'll be really good to do that. All right, let's move on to what did you guys do vision to go from where you all ended up to get onto TechRAM. So what was the vision? Obviously, you know each other very well. You worked with each other on and off on certain little side gigs, projects. So you're comfortable. What made you guys say, all right, today is a day we actually going to move into TechRAM? What was the vision around that, or the process around that?
Yeah, well, I think so. Rami always had TechRAM for just doing kind of like little side gigs, helping people with websites, bits and pieces. And a little while ago, he had an issue with an email system. I can't remember the exact problem, and gave me a call, and I helped him with it. And then a couple other times as well. And then I don't know. Rami always bugged me through uni and through last decade or so of our professional career. Is like, man, we need to start something together. Come on, I've got sales, you got tech, we can do this. We can build something amazing. And at the time, I was always like, yes, but I always wanted to learn and fail on someone else's watch, learn as much as I could, and then kind of going to my own sort of thing. And then after a couple of times of helping him out, we were kind of square, like we saw a bit of an issue and a gap in the market of a lot of IT companies just not doing it right. They'd be from process and operations to actually like customer service, delivery. We kind of felt and saw that gap, and then we just said, you know what, let's try this. Let's see how we go with it.
Yeah. But to add to that as well, it wasn't just like with the customers, but it was also like our experience of working with other leaders and actually seeing how like they just didn't know how to lead people. And it was something that we actually really felt that we wanted to create an organization, not only to deliver, like best in class and an amazing experience for customers, but also an amazing experience for people to feel like they've been part of, I don't like saying the word, but like part of something that's actually driving, some positive impact, but also something that inspires them and allows them to really lead in their own lives and their own career as well.
Great. I know you guys are passionate about your customers. When you talk about them, you talk about the outcomes and what what are you driving for them to get the result. And I think that's really, that passion shows through. And I think if you keep that sort of attitude, I think you'll never ever fall back behind the eight ball. You'll always have referrals. You have continuous opportunities at those organizations. So I'm a big believer in rather doubling down and solving issues with a client rather than not rushing off, because a lot of companies, what they do is they got the sales machine working and got the delivery machine working, but what they do is they deliver something, solve a little problem, and then they bugger off to the next client. And because they have to, because they've got a sales pipe, rather than staying around and, going a little bit deep with that client and asking him a few more questions, and do we actually have this thing resolved so that you're actually getting the use out of it, and then moving on to the next client, because then you'll get a referral and they'll call you back. That to me is I see that often with services firms. So keep that focus. All right. So when did you start TechRAM?
Well, it was more close towards the beginning of this year, where my timing allowed me to jump in a little bit earlier than Victor.
Yep.
But it was something that we had always discussed, the months leading up to it, and it was a plan that we were talking to people. We didn't want to just jump in. The main challenge for us was, we had a lot of expenses. We both have mortgages as well, so the commitment was to also play it a little bit safe, or the plan always was to play it a bit safe. But yeah, I jumped in first to help drive and build up the sales and the network, and then Vic came in. It was like 2 months after, I think it was. Yeah, so I was like February. He was closer towards.
It was funny because Rami jumped in, and I think my plan was always kind of like the July, August schedule, jump in, and then I think he was like 4 weeks in. He's like, man, I need you.
Yeah.
he's like, I can't wait till the weekends or after work when you can actually help me out. It's like, I need you now. And so, it was a big decision at the time, and it's, I don't think we've looked back since, which has been really good. It's been a journey.
I met Rami at an event, and I was like, quite an interesting guy, because I get a lot of people that want to hook up with me and tap me for my knowledge and everything else. And then I said, what's your partner like? And then I spoke to him at the time afterwards, and I went, you guys will make a good team. One that knows tech, understands, very personable, understands problem solving, which is really sales, and the other person who's the architect and the delivery around that. So I think you gents have got a good opportunity to grow something here. So I think the two different skills are very complementary. So keep it up. Keep that focus. Keep that, each of you got that strength. Keep going. Double down on those strengths points. Don't try and do something else and be something else. I'm a big believer in, if you're good at something, stay in that zone and just double down on it. So that's just my tip to you guys. What did you do to get your first client? So a lot of people talk to me, hey, Ian, we want to start a company, but, what do we need to do? And I always say to them, just go and get a first client, and then everything else will follow, because it all starts with a client. If you don't have a client, you can't actually do anything. You can't deliver anything, and you can't make any money, and you can't actually reproduce that opportunity over and over again with other clients. So I'm a big believer in saying it all starts with clients. So how did you get your first client, gents?
Hang on. Sorry. Did we cut out? Did you
hear me? Sorry,
we lost you for like a few seconds.
Okay. I'll just go. I'll repeat that section again. It all starts with clients. And a lot of people always ask me, we want to start a company and we want to get going. What do we do first? And I always say to them, at the end of the day, it's about getting clients. If you can't get a client, then you can't really start your IT services business, So how did you gents go out and get your first client?
Yeah, it was a lot of like tapping into our network. Really was, that's where we've been really keeping contact with friends. Like our first few clients were definitely our friends that we spoke to that just needed help. Keeping in contact with just people that we've worked with as well, and just seeing where we can get referrals from them. Really tapping into and exhausting as much of our network has been where we've gotten the first few key wins. Yeah,
great. Yeah, a lot of people get that through referrals, through previous clients have worked at. There's all those type of things that happen. But then at some point, you've got to build a repeatable machine to basically bring in that pipe and try and keep it as even as possible. It never really is, but it's, that's the dream, I suppose, for IT services. And that's what we're going to be working on over the next 3 to 6 months. I get more and more of that happening. Okay, so what was your early stage? I know it's still early, but what was the biggest challenge so far? Just for you guys to start out, what was the biggest challenge so far? Was it a client? Was it, convincing each other to do it? Or, what was it?
For us, he was trying to do everything. And knowing we can do everything. Knowing we can do everything. The whole product suite, if you would.
Yeah.
And then realizing that, number one, our time was spread thin.
Yeah.
We weren't profitable with billing our time as well. And also from a management point of view, realizing that you're managing so many things, and again, your time is just stretched.
Yeah. And you can never get good at one thing as well. Like, you're always saying yes to anything that comes your way, learning how to do it, or, just distracted from, a core thing that you've been doing well in. And then you just, it impacts the client, the service isn't as good. Like, there was a lot of roll-on effect that we just didn't really notice or pay attention to. And it was only really in the last few months where we're like, we've got to go from this to really just narrow it down to what are we really good at, what do we really want to hit the market and find our customers in, and everything else we can refer to other people and then build relationships with them to refer back to us as well.
Yeah. Great model. You got to be famous for something, and you got to work out what your zone is of fame. This is the early stage of any organization. Is people want to go out and they need, they panic because they need revenue to feed the family and everything else behind them. So they basically go out fishing, and I'm not even a fisherman, but they want to go out with a big cast net type thing and just throw it overboard and catch some fish. And unfortunately, you catch things that you can't even eat, or and the net's too big and the fish swim through it. And there's a whole lot of reasons why you don't actually get results, rather than going out with the depth finder, the right bait, the right temperature, the right, all the science around catching a fish, and your odds go up, and you can catch something and take it home and eat. So that's where you guys are going now. So you jumping across that, whole thing of let's do as much as we can to keep clients happy, to let's focus, let's become sustainable, as I call it, stress less, because you're going to actually stress less, because you don't get those outliers where you'll phone up Victor and say, "Hey, Victor, I think you know how to solve this, but I've just said to the client, you can solve it." And he goes, "I could. It's just going to take me 10 hours extra time to work it out." Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then you're going like, "Oh, damn it, I've left Victor in a bit of a bind yet." Mm-hmm. That's probably happening in the background, and that happens at any stage of organization. Mm-hmm. But soon you'll be able to phone up Victor and say, "Victor, that thing we did 3 times already? We've got to do it the fourth time." Yeah. And that's going to be a relief for Victor, because you'll be able to give better value to the customer. He'll get better outcomes. He'll do it quicker and faster, and that produces better margins and take home money for you guys, which is really, really good. So that's awesome. What strategies do you guys think you're going to do over the next 6 months, let's say, to attract and retain clients? What are your thoughts around that area?
Yeah, well, we're investing heavily in just our marketing, really, just how we also market our brand, how we also capture some of the successes that we've had, how we promote those as well. But our main priority is going to be LinkedIn. And that's the new strategy that we want to push. Posting more, creating more offers or free, highly valuable content that people can really start to use to support initiatives that they're driving within their business, and then just really be able to connect and build up a strong online profile, strong online brand for both of us.
Yeah, good personal brand. Also being strong thought leaders in the space.
Great.
Because I think that's important, that it shows. I feel like most people will always search a person's name as soon as they start talking to them or
100%.
approaches them. And just having that credibility and that authority, I think, is really important. And we know we've got the skill sets, but we don't have that online presence that we need to start building up.
Yeah. Well, you guys are new age. And what I say about that is I'll talk to a lot of my other clients, and they basically, 45 and above, those guys do not want to get online. All right. And it's a big opportunity they're missing, a big opportunity, because the ones that do get online get a lot more, a pass through of, like if they do webinars, if they do go live YouTube stuff, or they go to events and they present at an event, or they're putting themselves out there the whole time. And people don't know you if you actually, in your office doing nothing else but delivering work. People got to, listen to you, hear from you, and find you as well. So it's important to get out there. And I think you guys have got that. So I think, it's going to be interesting to see map that journey out with you guys and see how it goes. So LinkedIn Lives, are you ever going to do a couple of LinkedIn Lives maybe? Thought about that?
Oh, we haven't really thought about a LinkedIn Live. That's actually interesting. We're starting off with just posting.
Yeah.
And then we'll sort of direct messaging, for potential, customers that we can help.
For sure.
And then, we'll explore the LinkedIn Live. That's actually, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, look, I mean, so just before COVID happened, I was quite big on LinkedIn. I pushed a lot then compared to what I do now. And what actually happened is they reached out to me and they offered me I don't know what you call it. It's like a LinkedIn scholarship type program, which is like worth, I can't remember, 20,000 US or something. It was quite a bit. And they wanted to fly me over to New York to do basically a whole series and get me up as a creator on their platform and learn, how to become even a better creator. Because really at the end of the day, LinkedIn, if you think about the basis of it, is competing with like the YouTubes of the world and everything else, where all these other creators are. And if they're not putting out good content, quality content, then a lot of people aren't going to be consuming the content, and then they're not going to be able to charge for those advertising. So I'm still on some of those emails that I get from them, and I see the stats that come out, and really people only are really consuming things that are live or things that are actually recorded in a video with some writing at the bottom. So it's easier to get the content out there, now with AI and everything else for written work. I think it's easy. And I think that's a good starting point just to get your thoughts clearly. Once you start to get your messaging right and where you want to go with your service offering and using LinkedIn, that is really good. But I think the next stage of that evolution is getting yourselves in front of a screen and talking to people, or having a 30-minute session once a month with tips and tricks. Those are the type of things. But we'll talk a bit about later as we go through in the next 3 to 6 months. I'll be pushing you guys to get out there more and more. And you will be able to do it because you guys know what to do and you can put yourselves out there. And there's a lot less baggage that you have than other people do. So that's your opportunity that you'll have, without a doubt. Any comments on that before I carry on next?
No, definitely. I think, what really drew us to LinkedIn from the marketing point of view was that is where our ideal client is.
Correct.
You think, in your Facebook and your Instagram and your Google ads, and it's like, it's not really where our ideal client is searching or is, browsing. But we're not trying to get them on a personal point of view where they're on Instagram and they're looking at their own funny memes and friends and whatever. And an IT ad comes up, it's like, it's not really where we want to be. We want to be on LinkedIn where they're probably looking for this type of content and information. And you've really nailed it home as well around these sort of content creation around how-to guides or quick tips and tricks and bits and pieces around that, because it does also build a bit more of that authority. And just the final thing you mentioned as well around, we don't really have that baggage. What we've noticed in the last couple of months is we have the ability to pivot on certain things without having to deal with all of the stuff in the back end of like, we're going to think about this client and then this system that we have and this process, and we're still nimble enough that we can pivot and just be more flexible.
Yeah, I think you guys have already, as we spoke in our one-on-one sessions, you're starting that pivoting process.
Yeah.
And I think the opportunity that you guys are going down, we'll talk maybe a bit about it later, is huge. And I think it'll sustain your business for the next 10 plus years.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think the old people that are stuck with the luggage and everything else are going to battle, to be honest, over the next couple of years until they transition to the next environment. Yeah. So I think you guys have come in the right place, and that's what I was saying to you guys from day one. Great opportunity. You've come in. It's just about execution, really, at the moment. And we're going to talk a bit about it now. So innovation is a big place in IT services. How do you guys, going to use that to your advantage? So let's just talk a bit about that. We just talked a bit how you're pivoting, how you're going to use that to your advantage, because it's hard to innovate all the time. It takes energy of learning and cross-skilling and all those things. And if you've got, a lot of staff, how do you cross-train them? And some of them don't want to be cross-trained, and that becomes a challenge. So let's just talk about the innovation side. How are you going to use that to your advantage, gents?
Yeah, well, for us, like a lot of the projects and my background as well, when I was at PagerDuty as an automation specialist, I was able to really deepen my skills into how I can understand and be able to solve sort of complex problems and build out sort of complex workflows and automate that. And it was actually something that we were able to really tap into and really deliver for a lot of our clients. And what we've noticed, especially with a lot of our clients and how we've been able to tap into sort of more complex, getting to know them a lot more, is the opportunities and expansions there with something like artificial intelligence and AI. And what we like to do is we like to use and play with AI a lot to create little automations for our own self. As an example is being able to voice record into Slack where we communicate. AI to automatically capturing that and to document that for us.
Nice.
So we're turning ideas, which, we always have some great ideas, so it's always making sure we kind of laser focus on the plan, but keep those ideas parked to the side. So, to answer your question on how we're looking at innovations, we're looking at always at how we can really tap into some of the latest and the greatest stuff. And we're always also encouraging our team. Victor and I are big on researching, and we love, always allocating some time to learning about what's the newest and the greatest thing. We post that and we share that. We also encourage our team to do that as well. We always look to understand, what's the latest technologies that we can take advantage of. What's the latest technologies our customers can take advantage of.
Nice.
And we're always, finding ways. We're always going to our customers with, hey, we were using this, but we've actually switched over to a new system because we actually found that it was much better and it's incorporating more later, greater innovations, particularly around AI as an example. So yeah, that's how we're always, we always come up with ideas. We'll sit down, we'll spend a bit of time and we'll just, and share things and idea out how we can, use more new stuff.
Yeah, and I think also, I feel like our clients tell us what they need, and then we find that innovation around that as well. We understand, we talk a lot to our clients because really they're the ones that are telling us, hey, these are our problems. And if we're not talking to them, we're not finding what those problems are. But more importantly, when we hear about these issues, it enables us to find or to innovate rather on what that problem is. It could be something we've never even dealt with before, but it is in the space or the realm of what we do as a business. And bring in a new innovative way, an idea or a process or whatever it might be. And it ends up blowing them away, which is great.
Good.
Which is, the fun part of it.
Yeah, look, it's amazing when your client's so stoked or so happy that you get a great service and it makes you, justify what you're actually doing at the end of the day. It's I'm not saving people and when they're not working in a hospital or anything like that. But it feels like, for us IT geeks, it feels quite cool. You wake up in the morning with a bit of an extra spring in your step. You've solved something for someone and you've made their lives a little bit easier at work. And that's what it's all about, I suppose. And if you stuck in close enough to that action, you'll get that feedback and that'll keep you energized and keep you going through it. Which leads us on to the next thing about team building. Now, I know, Rami's had a big opportunity to be at 4 big organizations. And we talked a bit about the team culture at one of those organizations. And so when as you're going to build your team, you got a small team at the moment, but as you build that team out more and more, what do you want your culture to be like?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is really giving our employees an opportunity to really share their opinions and share their, have a voice in the company. Really feel like they're leading their own business within what they do. And so, encouraging them, empowering them however we can and supporting them in that regard. So, however we can, also support them outside of professional life.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I'm also a big believer that if you can support your staff with how they can lead their life personally, then they will also come and show up on how they can lead professionally for you.
And that's what you can do in a small team environment. You can put that extra energy in there. Yeah. And why not? If it impacts other people positively, awesome. Well done.
Yeah. Like we had one of our staff today saying, hey, like he had a day in hell, as an example.
Yeah.
Where he had, complaint, had to go sort out something at his property, came back, was driving home, had a car issue, flat tire, couldn't change it, had to wait hours, didn't get home till late, couldn't sleep. And he spoke to me this morning. He was like, man, I just, I'm sorry, I feel a bit down. I just haven't slept. And I was like, look, take the next hour or two off, have a nap, come back to us when you're ready. We'll take care of that, right? Yeah. We'll look after the of the systems and the business on your side, and just make sure that you're fully ready until you feel comfortable that you're ready to show up here.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are humans at the end of the day. Yeah, and we realize that we've all got lives outside of work. And it's important to acknowledge that. Like, so if you come into work, we understand you can be frustrated, issues at home, whatever it might be. And I think when we communicate with our team about that and understand where those issues are and realize that, hey, you might need just a couple of personal days, just go. Just do what you need to do. Because we understand, we've all been there, and it's never going to stop either as sort of life throws you curveballs.
Yeah, 100%. You're not a machine, and those big organizations that are acting like a machine, they can't hang on to good quality people at the end of the day.
That's right.
And I think it's going to get worse with AI and the whole premise of who's going to have a job going forward and how bad it really looks like. Who knows really at the end of the day? But I think you'd rather be working with people that you can trust and work with and have a direct relationship with. And that's why I'm a big believer in small niche teams giving better value to customers than big consultancy type firms. There's a place for everything, but I think those big consultancy firms have got a bit of a challenge over the next 3 or 4 years as they transition to smaller teams within those companies. They have to have niche teams rather than big fat teams that can just do 5 or 6 different things. They want niche players. So we'll see that as we progress, I think, over the next couple of years with AI. All right, services. Let's talk a bit about the services that you guys are offering and currently as a business.
We used to offer a lot more. We've really narrowed it down to sort of the area, the skill set, especially for Victor's skill set.
Yeah,
he's really able to help with that technical delivery side, and it's really around the Microsoft stack. Where we started off, like I mentioned to you around just before, around doing some automation projects. What we found is that more of our customers are looking around how they can take advantage of AI. And as users of AI and as lovers of AI and the opportunity, a lot of people still don't really know how to use it and how it can benefit them. And also the foundations that you have to build before you can really start to lead with AI in your business. And so the infrastructure or how you manage your data. So, everything is now starting to build up for us is how can we help businesses build the right foundations, the right infrastructure for AI. And we're heavily invested in Microsoft because that's where more of our skill set is. And that's where we're seeing a lot of the great innovations come through as well.
Great. Look, Microsoft's a big player now. If I started an IT services company tomorrow, it'll be around Microsoft without a doubt. So I think you've got a good tick in the box there for success and momentum. Victor, any thoughts on the services?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of the time when we're faced with a challenge with a client or other, solving one of their challenges, we end up uncovering different bits and pieces around the Microsoft realm. You could go in for a SharePoint issue or project and then realize that their whole end-to-end identity is all over the place. And then this becomes now a bit more of a security conversation, an identity conversation. What ends up building from there is a whole host of other sort of roadmap items, as we like to call it, where, we don't like to say to our clients, oh, cool, you need Intune, you need SharePoint, and all these things. And they're just like, what the hell are you talking about? We kind of like to sort of spill it out and say, you guys currently are at sort of X, which might be a startup between startup and growth phase. Call it maybe 5, 10, or 15 endpoints on a smaller side of things. As you continue to grow, you need to hit these milestones, which is at potentially 15 or 20 seats. Great. We need to think about endpoint management, which is around this sort of in-tune model. And then what comes with that, for example, further on, you've got Purview, now we're going to think about your data. So it's like a lot of people want AI now, but from an organizational point of view, they're just not ready for it because they haven't thought about the governance of their data. They haven't thought about the access to their systems. They haven't thought about the labeling of the information all throughout SharePoint, as an example, who has access to it. And so what ends up being a single point of entry ends up opening up all these doors and all these multiple opportunities that we're trying not to capture it and say you need to do all this now, but it's like, hey, this is what the next 12 to 24 months looks like. And that also gives us an opportunity to become a little bit more sticky with them as well. Because we do have then that trust and that confidence to say, we're going to help you through this and we're going to show you how to get there, but it is a journey and we're going to make sure we're supporting you along the way.
Brilliant. So just to go back a step there, because I sort of, obviously a Microsoft user. I think it's amazing product. Power Automate, which is obviously the automation component of that. Do small businesses actually even know what they've got there? Or is it only large businesses that are sort of using it? And then they're competing with MuleSoft, I presume, and all the other bigger tools out there. There's a whole lot of, UiPath. There's a whole lot of different big organizations. And then at the real bottom, which is what we use internally, is Zapier. You know what I mean? Like, where does it automate? Was that a success really? Or just an opportunity no one's really hit on?
It's probably a bit of both almost.
Yeah. The way my perspective on it is that for a lot of customers, they don't really understand what they have in their Microsoft ecosystem and what they can actually take advantage of. An example of that is where we helped the customer where they needed to actually find a way to manage all the incoming marketing briefs that were tasked to the marketing team from all the different business units. And there was a strict, and they were kind of forced to look at Microsoft because there was a strict mandate from the board that said just no more new tools. This is what happens. I've worked at big organizations as well, where it's like someone sees, Monday.com, they're great for this. And it's like, we already have the exact same tool that we've been using over here. And every department was using their own tool. And then it becomes a mess. So what was good in this circumstance is that the business and the teams were forced to actually have to look into some of the internal tools, which is where they brought us as the Microsoft experts to help them support that. And we were able to create a full automated workflow, not only using Power Automate, we're also using Microsoft Planner to track the progress, to also enable a whole bunch of automation and notifications and to really help improve the way that they collaborate, the way they work together. So it was a really cool project for us to be able to solve that problem. But just not everyone knows that everything is already there in Microsoft. You can take advantage of it. You might not have to go out there. Zapier is good because it's easy. You can get started very quickly. Some of the bigger tools are more purpose-built. When you look at RPA, more complex solutions, but it's kind of like Power Automate really sits in that middle for those, really easy use cases because it's there and it's also you can get so detailed and expand those automation use cases to be able to do really anything.
Sure. Now, is automation, the Power Automate tools, are they going to be more popular now with AI? Do they couple together somehow, or do they work separately? What's your Victor? What's your take on that?
100%. We've been sort of playing now with Copilot Studio as well.
Yeah,
and a lot of mid to large organizations are starting to think about Copilot Studio. But what it does quite well is that it incorporates Power Automate and Power Flows directly into the agents. And so I think what's going to happen is you're going to end up with an agentic front end where you can chat and do whatever you need to do. But then it's going to have a whole bunch of automation pieces behind it to actually execute the process or the operation or the prompt or whatever it might be. On top of that, you also have the ability to use Copilot to actually help you build your automation, which is fantastic. Is it 100%? No, but it'll get you there.
Yeah.
And I think what ends up happening is a lot of organizations go, this is a little bit too hard. We should bring in some specialists.
For sure.
And to add to what Victor's saying, what a lot of people are getting mixed up right now is that it's just only AI. That it's basically AI is just running automation. So it's a hybrid of automation and AI. And on Victor's point, where you have the chat in the front end, that's to really just help make sense of everything. It's connected to your data, it's able to understand what you're doing. Then you use automation to execute. And so a hybrid of automation and AI is where we're moving towards, because they both are really important. Being able to understand, like for the AI bot to understand who you are, and then for the right automation to run to be able to really speed up work.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm going to need to get you guys back, I think, just on that. And you can show me, we can do a LinkedIn Live or something like that. Just to understand a bit more, because I would love to learn about that. I just don't have time to get on that YouTube channel and learn it. I'd rather get out there and you guys show me so we can look at it internally and how we can use it better internally. So I'll get a date set up for you guys. It might be late November, and if we can't get it in before late November, it'll have to be first week of Feb, because there's just timing issues in that. But would love to see that and your thoughts and your process around that, so that I think a lot of people need to be educated to get that value out of the Microsoft platform. So it'd be good if you get you guys on there. Just a couple of other things. Any other success stories you've done recently that you guys want to highlight? Bit of a plug for you guys? Anything?
Bring me on. Couple.
I'm sure you got a couple. I know you have. You don't have to mention the name of the company, but you can just talk about what the solution did and how you helped them out.
Probably something that is sort of still in the Microsoft space, but more in the Azure side of things.
Yep.
I got contacted by a person I used to at another gig who had moved to a larger organization, and they're now the head of IT there, and they go, we're spending all this money in Azure and nobody knows what's going on. And so I came in and did a bit of a cost reduction assessment to get a bit of an understanding about, okay, cool, what resources are being used, what's the most utilized, what's being underutilized, all these different assessment questions. And they were spending close to 120, 130 grand a year in Azure subscriptions.
Yep.
We were able to save them 50%.
Wow.
So a massive reduction, and they were able to sort of take that, reallocate the budget into different projects, and we also won some of that work as well, which is kind of like a double win for us. Not only were we able to save them money, we were also able to jump onto other projects that sort of they kind of, I feel, probably felt that we built a bit of trust and confidence.
Yeah, nice.
That we could save and deliver for them.
Great.
I think that was really good. Probably one of our better ones in the last couple of months.
For sure. So Victor, just talk about that pitch. You went in there through a referral. You did a sort of a scoping assessment process. How long did that take? 3-4 days?
Yeah, so I went through and assessed the whole environment myself first. And then I had a couple of workshop meetings with the internal IT team to get a bit of an understanding about defining what these resources were, what they were doing, if anyone was actually using them. Just some simple things and a few complex things around sort of larger pieces of work within it. And I would say probably in total a week's worth of work.
Yeah. But you got to know what you're doing, obviously. You got to have
absolutely. Absolutely. I've got experience in Azure as well.
Exactly. You're a solution architect level. You can't just walk in there as a senior consultant and just do it in a week. So that that's your value add. That's what you bring. That's your specialty. So that is an awesome cost saving on Azure. I wonder how many companies out there that are in the same situation where they do. I mean, like personally, I'm on the next subscription. Like I don't know how many things I've got subscribed. Like this weekend, I must have subscribed to 2 more new services. Only like $12 a month or something, but it adds up. And you're wondering, and I've got one credit card, and I've got to go through that credit card. I keep saying to myself, That's my subscription credit card. I've got to go through it. Never do. So I wonder how many companies would actually save by contacting you guys, getting out there and getting some help. Would be a lot.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's quite an opportunity out there. And I think it all kind of boils down to the business needing a new resource or project or something added to Azure, and no one ever really scopes it out properly. And so if the IT team might not have the internal skill set to realize how to understand what capacity management looks like or what resource allocation looks like, and they just provision,
sure.
and no one reviews and looks back and be like, gee, do we need these 3 or 4 VMs sitting there that have just been powered off and consuming disk for no reason? It's like, oh cool, I've turned it off, I've saved on CPU and memory, but you still have disk consumption, which everybody forgets. So it's all these just small things that a lot of businesses aren't using as a ssort of review or a checklist every day.
It's sort of like a maintenance program. You've got to have a maintenance review program, as part of your cloud. You've got to make sure, because I know what's happened in my life. We were sort of traditionally not on cloud as it is now, but we're still on servers and data centers. You just don't know what. Well, you go to a big company. What is that database used for? Don't know. That was the last project. Well, maybe it's 2 years ago. Just leave it running because we don't know what it's doing. You know what I mean? You don't know who's really looking after it. Just leave it running.
And that's then during those workshop meetings, I always like to run through the cry method, which is turn it off and see who cries. You don't know what it's doing, right? Because it's like, oh, we think it is. It's like, you don't know what it is. So turn it off or shut down the services and see who whinges, or who cries. And I'm telling nobody. And it's a quick fire way to figure out what's going on.
Well, that's amazing. So, gents, we're gonna probably come to a close now. I know you're hella busy. You've got some awesome things happening. We're going to get you back on the podcast at some stage so we can get an update on how's the team going and what you're up to with AI and all the new things that you guys are doing. I appreciate your time. Any last closing thoughts that you guys want to mention?
This has been great.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. It's been fun. It's good to kind of also reflect on where we've come and sort of where we've how we've gone. So, thank you.
Okay,
thank you. It's been great, Ian. Thank you.
Good. Well, thanks so much for your time, gents. See you later. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on IT Mastermind Talks. Don't miss out on our next episode. Hit the follow button and stay updated. Want to be our next podcast guest? Contact us and share your expertise with our audience. Visit www.itmastermindtalks.com for more information.